What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Jolly by Nature, and we are back bringing you our PvP post-commentary for Chapter 3 of the Blastburn Radio Nuzlocke World Tour. This was a really exciting week of PvP. We were back in the singles format after we were so successful in doubles last chapter, really trying to keep that momentum going, but you know, as we talked about in the team builder, our work was definitely cut out for us this chapter, especially given that we really don't have a ton of answers to break that massive defensive core that Celeste has built in particular. And of course, our first match of the week is up against the woman herself, Celeste. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it and see how it goes. Now, as you can see on the overlay and the screen, we brought the team that we discussed in the team builder. So Shimmy the Gyarados, Shelby the Kingler, Johnny the Mega Pinsir, Yam the Plusle, Peanut the Meowstic, and Granola the Crobat up against Celeste's team. She had some really key evolutions this week, evolving Song, her Floette, into Florges, as well as Brad, her Pikachu, into Raichu. She also brings Shiitake, her Breloom, Starscream, her Skarmory, Yumian, her Snorlax, and Benson, her Charmeleon. I was really surprised to see the Charmeleon this week. I didn't think it was a particularly compelling option against what I have on the table. I don't think I was even particularly wrong there, but we'll see how it goes, I suppose. Now, ultimately, we decided to lead Peanut. That was our plan from the get. Our hope being that Celeste would believe, at least, that her best defensive switch into the Psychic type Peanut would be her Skarmory Starscream, especially since the Psychic Stab is Psyshock. So that's the hope. We have Charge Beam now. Our hope is to trick a swap into the Skarmory, nail it with a Charge Beam, get a +1, and at that point, even though the Skarmory is almost definitely going to switch out, we can really start threatening. But I guess we'll see how that goes. Celeste does lead Shiitake, her Breloom, which is a scary thing. So I've done the math, and Peanut speed ties max speed Breloom. I don't know if Shiitake is adamant or Jolly, so I'm not sure if it's a speed tie or if we outspeed. But at best, or at worst, we speed tie. We decided to go ahead and go for a Fake Out. I don't believe that Celeste has a Focus Sash, but I figure there's no point in taking a chance there. So we Fake Out to break the Sash, and then here you can see me really struggling with, do I risk the speed tie? And ultimately we decide not to risk the speed tie and to hard out into Granola the Crobat, which is just a safer option. After all, it quad resists both of Shiitake's stabs, which is helpful. We do switch into a Bullet Seed, which even quad resisted is doing what is frankly disgusting damage. Like, there should be no reason that a quad resisted move should hit that hard. Thankfully, it only lands 3 times, and we do see that Shiitake is holding the Life Orb, which is what we expected, but you can never be totally sure, right? We go ahead and Wing Attack, which in hindsight was probably a misplay, but like, sometimes you just have to play for the thing that's in front of you, and it would have been so foolish if we had like Confused Raid and the Breloom had for some reason stayed in. But no, of course, Starscream the Skarmory comes out. In fact, in hindsight, I probably should have double swap pivoted there. That was just a misplay on my part. So we are going to go back out into Peanut, again, hoping at this point to get a Charge Beam off into this Skarmory and just kind of land a big hit and set ourselves up at least a tad. We do see the Stealth Rock, unsurprisingly, come out from the Skarmory. And this is the moment of truth, fellas. We're going for the Charge Beam. We're really hoping to do, I mean, I believe it does about a third of Starscream's health at +0, which would be huge. Unfortunately, Celeste goes out and instead goes into Yumian, which I think, honestly, given the knowledge that Celeste had at that point in the match, I think that was just a misplay. Again, the only powerful move that Celeste knows that my Meowstic has is Psyshock, which is going to hit Yum Yum significantly harder than it will Starscream. I feel like the correct decision was to stay in with the knowledge that she had, but ultimately she made what was functionally the correct decision, even if theoretically it was not so. We do land a pretty big Psyshock at +1, and Yum Yum gets a yawn off. Fortunately, Yum Yum does not know that we're holding a Lumberry, so we are not remotely scared of going nap right now, and we're just going to stay in and continue to pressure with that Psyshock, which is looking like it's about a 3-hit KO. Get another huge hit off there. Yum Yum's going to land a body slam, which is going to hurt, hurting for certain, but does not get the para. We go to sleep and we immediately wake up, and now we are in a position to really threaten the Snorlax. I believe we wind up going for a Charge Beam on this turn, expecting the swap. No, we stay with Psyshock. Okay. Yep, and Yum Yum does come out in favor of Starscream, the Skarmory. I should have gone for Charge Beam that turn. +1 Charge Beam there would have been huge. Instead, we land a +1 Psyshock, which doesn't do much. And it seems pretty clear at this point that Celeste is trying to stall out PP of my Psyshock, which is probably a good plan, honestly. But we're going to go back to the Charge Beam with that Skarmory in front of us. We have no reason to do otherwise. I do wish in hindsight I had been a little bit more aggressive in my playing in these early turns. Song of the Floor just comes out into that Charge Beam, which is not going to do a ton of damage in and of itself, but is going to boost our special attack again. So we are now at +2, and we have the Psyshock to hit on the physical side against this very specially defensive Florges. So we are in a great position at this point, honestly. Really could not ask for better in this matchup. We land another Psyshock, this one at +2, which is going to do a stupid amount of damage to the Florges. Just nuts. You love to see it. After the Citrus Berry, it goes back up to over half, but it's very clear that Song cannot live 2 of those, which is only to our benefit. And I mean, we're going back to the Psyshock, but at this point, Celeste is thinking really hard, and rightfully so, because this is a turn where, like, barring a Protect, something is almost certainly dying this turn. And we do go back to the Psyshock, and I believe that should be enough to bring down the Florges. No, not quite. That's right. Song just barely lived. That Citrus Berry coming in really clutch there. Goes for a Fairy Wind, but we live that hit as well, which is enormous. But now, again, now we are in a position where if something eats a Psyshock this turn, they're going to get KO'd. We go ahead and go for the Charge Beam. It's living on a sliver. We're looking for a boost. However, Celeste goes for the Protect, clearly trying to stall out our Psyshock PP. So we definitely made the correct choice there. We're going to go back to Psyshock this turn, thinking that maybe Celeste is going to try a sneaky swap. Sorry about the spin cycle. I did not plan recording this very well on the timetable side of things. Song goes for a double Protect, which it does not land. We land another Psyshock, and we are able to finish it off. In hindsight, probably should have gone back to the Charge Beam there. Again, the winning answer for Celeste right now is to stall out my Psyshock PP, and so I should have anticipated that, but I didn't, and that's my bad. Shiitake, the Breloom, comes out, and at this point, Peanut cannot switch out reasonably, unless we're just saving him for death fodder, which I think ultimately we decided to do here. We decided to save Peanut to just switch back in later, which I think is honestly a misplay. Again, this is a speed tie, reasonably. So I could have stayed in and clicked Psyshock here, but that's not the decision that we made, and I have to live with that. Oh, well, Mach Punch. That's why. I'm remembering why I did things now. I switched out because of Mach Punch, which is also why I wanted the Sashimi to get the Intimidate. Reasonably certain that Breloom is going to Mach Punch here, and Mach Punch he does. We deal just as much damage back with Rocky Helmet and get the Intimidate off. So that was a really solid play on my end. Again, Peanut can't come back onto the field in this match, but can switch back in to give a free swap, which is really, really important potentially. And we stay in with with Sashimi and go for an Ice Fang as Shiitake comes back out in favor of Yumian the Snorlax, who does switch in on that Ice Fang and takes a little bit of damage. We also take Rocky Helmet on that, so not exactly a winner of a turn necessarily. And Sashimi goes for Dragon Rage, which is a play that I can freely make now that Song the Florges is down, and now Yumian the Snorlax is down. So this is by far the best we have done in singles PvP this season. We have managed to break 2/3 of Celeste's defensive core. However, we still have Starscream the Snorlax, or Starscream the Skarmory to deal with, at full health, no less, which is a significant problem. We really kind of needed Peanut the Meowstic to help us deal with that problem, and as we can see now, Peanut is spent. Peanut is going to swap in here to die to Rocks and give us a free swap to deal with this Raichu. And unfortunately, I don't have much on the current roster to deal with the Raichu. In hindsight, I really should have brought in Taquito the Quilladin, but this is kind of where we are. This is where we live now. We are banded on Granola the Crobat, so I think our hope here, is to force the swap into Starscream, and then we're going to confuse Ray to confuse it. Like, Celeste has already learned, much to her detriment, that Granola is faster and hits hard. Okay, so at this point, we need to make big plays if we're going to break Starscream. Our answers to the Skarmory are neutralized at this point, which is not a great thing. So we've got to put our dollars into Shelby and count on the fact that the Skarmory's confused to give us the opportunity. Unfortunately, it acts through confusion and lands a Whirlwind, forcing Shelby out. So not ideal, but when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And in this case, we're gonna go for a Swords Dance. The thought process being that if Starscream acts through confusion and either Brave Birds, if it Whirlwinds, we're much more likely to survive the switch in without Mega Evolving there. And now that we're at +2, we're much more likely to deal real damage to this Skarmory. Thankfully, it did hit itself. We got the opportunity to go to +2. So now it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for Mega Pinsir to make his debut on the field. Beyond Evolution, Mega Evolve. Here goes Mega Johnny. There's really only one decision for me to make here, and that is to Mega Evolve in close combat and get as much damage on Starscream as I humanly possibly can to try to put him in a range where the rest of our team can deal with him. Even if that costs us Johnny, like that is a fair trade at this point. Especially because Johnny's not particularly good against what remains of Celeste's team. I mean, it does fine against Shiitake. And look, does over half. That is a huge chunk of damage into that physical wall. And if Starscream hits itself, we'll be in great position. But unfortunately, Starscream does not hit itself. And Whirlwind out our boy Johnny. But yeah, with that Raichu still in the back, there's really just only so much that Johnny is capable of doing in this matchup. And so spending him to deal with Starscream, I think, is unquestionably the correct choice. Rocks are putting us in a really bad position at this point because we can't swap a lot of things very freely in. So we try to just go for an Air Cutter to hit Starscream on the specialty defense side. And unfortunately it misses and we're just forced out with another Whirlwind. Again, can't really swap Sashimi out at this point either, because Sashimi will die on re-entry to Rocks. This is the passive pressure that Stealth Rocks applies, and it's not fun to be on the receiving end with a team that's vulnerable to it, unfortunately. We really definitely need to make some moves moving forward to become less vulnerable to Rocks. Starscream the Skarmory coming back out in favor of Brad the Raichu. For Celeste, we go for a Dragon Rage, which is unfortunate. I honestly, I wonder if we had gone for a return, if that might not have just one-shot Brad, which would have been so nice. But unfortunately, we can't swap out at this point. We are forced to just sit here and take the Thunderbolt from Brad the Raichu into the face of our Gyarados, and that is the end of Sashimi for this battle. And now I've got only one switch in that is not weak to Brad. In hindsight, yeah, I ultimately decided to go into Granola, which I think was the correct decision. But in hindsight like that, it's funny because Granola's offensive potency is so bad that I really need the choice band, but it locks me into these really unfortunate like pick one scenarios. In this case, the scenario didn't even matter because Brad also has quick attack and is able to just polish Granola off. And at this point, my only real answer to come in here is Yam, which is not great news for Yam, because of the two electric mice, Yam is definitely the worse. We decided to go for an Encore here. There's a part of me that was hoping that Yam would be faster, and would thus be able to Encore lock Brad into Quick Attack. Unfortunately, this was not the case. Brad was faster and went for a Thunderbolt. So wound up being a wasted turn and a misplay there, but it's one of those things, right? Sometimes with those speed tiers, you just don't know until you try. We tried and we failed. We eat another Thunderbolt there, taking Yam very low. Yam's going to eat the Citrus Berry and gain a little bit back, but it's not looking real nice. Launches an Electro Ball, which we're slower than the Raichu, so that's not going to do very much at all, which also allows Brad to eat his Citrus Berry, and if anything, Brad is healthier now than he was before. We're going to Electro Ball once more. I think we'll get one more off. I think we live one more Thunderbolt from Brad. Yep, we live one more. We get one more Electro Ball off for some chip damage. And then Yam's going to go down this following turn. So ultimately, I think my big mistake was not bringing Taquito, although like 4 Pokemon slot syndrome definitely exists here. Ironically, there's a part of me that thinks that Taquito might have been a better bring over Johnny, even though Johnny is our mega option, just because Johnny is overall like very, very vulnerable to some of the options that Celeste has, particularly the Sneaky Pebbles. So there's a part of me that thinks that maybe Johnny might have been the play here. It's also just really unfortunate because Pinsir gets Quick Attack as an egg move, and if Johnny had hatched knowing Quick Attack, this would have been a whole different game, right? Because regular Pinsir with normal type Quick Attack here would just do a ton. So in this instance, Brad goes for Quick Attack, actually. So I'm not sure if Celeste has already done the math and realized that because of the way the speed tiers fall, maybe she has a particularly slow Raichu and we're actually going to outspeed it. She certainly seems to believe so, because if she did not believe that Johnny was about to outspeed her, there was no reason to click Thunderbolt. So that's something, at least, I guess. But we are able to bring it down with X-Scissor, and then Vincent the Charmeleon comes out for Celeste. We do click return into it. Aerialate return would have been huge, but of course we did get paralyzed by that static on the way out, and that is enough to neutralize poor Johnny. If not for that static, this would have been an entirely different end game, and I'm really interested to think about how that one might have played out, but that's not the world we live in. Shelby comes out, our last great hope for this match, and at this point, I'm not sure how speed tiers line up here. And this is kind of the problem with Double Dance sets, right? Like, if this is a particularly fast Charmeleon and I Swords Dance, it's going to get 2 Dragon Rages off, and that's the end of me. If it's a slow Charmeleon, then I can just Swords Dance and go on the offensive. But I'm not sure which is true. I also have to be wary that either way, I've probably already lost this match because Shiitake the Breloom is in the back with Mach Punch. And I'm almost positive that a single Dragon Rage would put me in Mach Punch range. I ultimately choose to go for Agility here. Unfortunately, I am already faster, so it's just a wasted turn. However, again, at this point, this is an academic exercise, and probably also a... oh god, it is an academic exercise. It is not going to matter in the long run. Like if we were in draft and playing with differential, that would be different, but we're certainly not here. And that's enough for Benson the Charmeleon to take down Shelby and end the match. So final thoughts here. I definitely could have played better in a couple of points. I should have played more aggressively with Peanut, seeing as Peanut was my very real win condition in this matchup. And I did not do a good enough job of exploiting her. I definitely used her to apply pressure, which was good. But I should have played more aggressively, recognizing that once she goes down, I lack very real answers to break walls. I also should have found some way to bring Taquito. At this point in the series, Brad just didn't seem like nearly as potent of an option, but part of that is a lack of prep on my part. I didn't realize that he would get Thunderbolt by level up this week, and that's obviously a huge change for the Raichu, and I just did not bring answers to it, and I'm going to have to address that problem moving forward. But that was the first match of the week. Let's, of course, jump over to our second match as we take on Anna Maservia. All right, so we are back, and Anna is bringing a very interesting team this week. All the birds with her Drifblim, her Granbull, Fame, her Aerodactyl, her Hippopotas, her Roserade, fully evolved now, and her Chatot. We're bringing the same team that we brought in the last match, except instead of Granola the Crobat, we are bringing Optimus the Pawniard, as you can see on your screen. Stealth Rocks is just really good against Anna. Like, it's really difficult to justify not bringing a Rocks option against this team. Which is getting hard to, because both of our Rocks options are unevolved, and we're in the 30s now. Like, that's starting to become a really hard sell, but ultimately we decided that Optimus gave us the most bang for our buck this week, particularly with the different Intimidate options on Anna's team and its Defiant ability. So hopefully that's going to pay off for us. All right, and Anna is going to issue the challenge, sending out London, her Hippopotas, which is a little bit of a scary lead for me. Obviously, it's a ground type into my steel type. However, I don't know what all offensive options a level 32 Hippopotas has, and I decide, honestly, regardless, I'm going to outspeed it, and it is going to be worth my time to try to set up a Stealth Rock here. So that is exactly what we are going to do. Optimus, I'm pretty sure, is choice banded in this matchup, which means we're not going to be able to stay out after setting up rocks. But we are able to get rocks up, which is a huge point of contention here. And London the Hippopotas gets a yawn off, which is absolutely fine with me. I was on my way out the door anyway. And we are going to go ahead and hard out into, I believe, Sashimi. Sashimi makes sense here on multiple levels. Maybe not, though. Yeah, no. Yep, it's Sashimi. It was always Sashimi, really. And we go out into Sashimi. Our Gyarados getting an Intimidate off on the Hippopotas. Not that it is a particularly offensive boy anyway, as he goes into a Rock Tomb, which was a decision against a Pawniard with Defiant. But I'm guessing Anna just wasn't thinking about it in those terms. But that might be something that we can punish moving forward. And we're going to go back out into Optimus, seeing an opportunity to punish that Rock Tomb, to resist it, and get a 2x attack Defiant boost, which would be so huge if we could just go to +2 and just start punching. So back into Optimus we go, as Anna withdraws London and goes into Fame, her Granbull. Now, this is a really important turn. I really can't overstate the importance of this turn. Fame is going to get an Intimidate off, which is going to boost our attack by 2 stages. So after the -1 and the +2, we are at +1 attack. I know from the previous match, from Anna v Celeste, that Fame is rocking Power Up Punch, which means if it lands a single hit on Optimus, he is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. However, Anna knows that Optimus is a Steel type and most likely has some sort of Steel Stab, in this case Metal Claw. So the question comes down to, do we stay in, and if so, which one of these is faster? I have no idea at this point. I have not looked it up. I am not sure. I am faster. Anna has comes to the same decision, stays in, eats a Metal Claw to the face, and goes down. Really difficult to overstate the importance of that turn. Thame is a great defensive piece for Celeste's team with Charm, and a lot of my offensive Mon are physical. So it really could have been a good annoyer and harasser with Charm and Thunderwave and Intimidate. And instead it is pushing up daisies because Optimus here is a little badass. A little Billy Badass here. And now Anna has to decide who the hell she's going to switch in to this little monster, Choice Bandit at +1. She ultimately decides on London the Hippopotas. And at this point, I no longer feel particularly threatened by London, seeing what he chose to throw out last time. So we just stay in and go for a Metal Claw and deal a really significant chunk of damage. Do take Rocky Helmet damage, but, you know, sometimes it'd be like that. And we get Yawned. And ultimately, I'm going to wind up deciding, I think, that it's worth losing the +1 to remain awake. And so Optimus is going to come out here. In favor of Peanut, who is looking to do a hurt. Again, has electric coverage against a team that is literally half birds, which is good. We see another Rock Tomb come out from London, which is a choice, certainly. Again, my team is vulnerable to Rock. Overall, it makes sense. But man, just throwing out moves that lower stats against a Defiant Pawniard who has already punished you is a whole ass choice. We go for a Psyshock here, which is not quite enough to bring London down. And London has Crunch, oh no, which is going to do a not insignificant amount of damage to Peanut. Not life-threatening by any means. It is, in fact, still a Hippopotas. But it does enough. And we're going to go for a Shadow Ball here, which is going to be enough to bring London down. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have gone for Shadow Ball. I probably should have stuck with Psyshock as much as I wanted to save the PP, because I hadn't shown Shadow Ball yet, which means I could have potentially caught something else by surprise later in the week or even later in the series. I need to start giving more serious consideration to holding those things back. We do see Carmelite the Aerodactyl come out here. And we're going to stay in and just go for a Charge Beam. Well aware that we're probably not going to get it off. That this Aerodactyl is unquestionably faster and is most likely going to outspeed and KO us. But the big thing is Aerodactyl does get Home Claws. We cannot give this thing a free setup opportunity. So we are going to stay in and we're going to Charge Beam. If it tries to set up in our face, then we are going to punish it. And if not, then it's going to KO us and give us a free swap to come in and revenge kill. And this is where we get into tricky strats, because we are going to bring in Sashimi the Gyarados. And you might be thinking, well, Gyarados is a terrible answer for Mega Aerodactyl. Gyarados don't want no rocks, and this is the Rock Boy. And that's true, but we're going to get an Intimidate off. And we're going to immediately hard out into our good boy Optimus, and we're going to bait the Rock Tomb. Please, please Carmelite, please Mega Aerodactyl, hit me with your rocks. I beg of you. Alright, and actually Carmelite comes out in this instance in favor of Higher the Drifblim. As we switch out into Optimus the Pawniard. Still not a bad position, but not exactly the scenario I was hoping for there, unfortunately. But we are just going to stay in and go for a Feint Attack here, because I'm not really sure what Higher does to us in this circumstance. Most likely what Higher does is switch out here. But either way, it definitely feels like the offensive momentum, the offensive pressure is on my end, and we're going to maintain it. And yes, Higher is going to swap out in favor of Rose the Roserade, who is going to eat a Feint Attack on the switch in from Optimus. And Choice Banded Feint Attack ain't nothing. That's damage. That's damage right there. And we're going to stay in and go for another one. Rose, I believe, is going to go for a Giga Drain here. That feels right. Yep, goes for a Giga Drain, and once again, woof. Woof. Rose is just such a fucking monster. That's a resisted hit, ladies and gentlemen. That is so much damage. But we hang on, and we're able to finish it off, which is huge. So at this point, Anna is in the unenviable position of deciding which of her beloveds to send in. There aren't very many good answers here. And it's J Balvin the Chatot, which puts me in a rough spot, like legitimately. You wouldn't think of Chatot as being that rough of a mon to deal with, but this thing could be just Choice Specs Boom Burst and could blow me the fuck back. Or alternatively, could be Nasty Plot. And so switching out could be giving it the opportunity to set up. I still feel like I really need Optimus in this match, particularly to deal with Carmelite with Sucker Punch in the end game. So I am going to swap out here, but I do so fully recognizing that swapping here is very likely to give J Balvin a setup opportunity, which is exactly what it does. There is the Nasty Plot. So that thing is now at +2 special attack. That is a capital P problem. And ultimately, I decide to go for the Thunder Wave here, thinking that if I survive the attack, making it easier for the rest of the team to deal with is probably the best outcome. However, we just don't survive the attack. We just go down. But Optimus is no longer locked in to Feint Attack, which makes me feel much more comfortable bringing him back out and hoping that after Stealth Rocks, that Sucker Punch will be enough to do it. And you know, if I were coaching my opponent here, I think that the Sucker Punch play is actually pretty obvious here. And I probably would have sat there and Nasty Plotted in my face. But that's always like, that's a 50-50, right? It always is. But it's pretty clear from the way that I have played Optimus up until this point in the match that he is banded. And as such, that is something that you can abuse to go, okay, well, if you go Sucker Punch, then you've only got 5 or at maximum 8 Sucker Punch PP, and I can play around that, and you have to switch if you want to switch moves. So, again, this was the last PvP match of a night where PvP took a long time. It was very late. I don't think either of us were playing our absolute best here. And that's just something that maybe to keep in mind in your own matches. And again, Optimus proving his worth here, getting another Sucker Punch off into Carmelite, and is able to bring the Mega Aerodactyl down as well. At this point, I believe Higher the Drifblim is all that remains on Anna's team. Is going to once again take a quarter of its health in Stealth Rocks damage in the switch in. And we're going to play it safe here and just go out into Yam. Again, I don't know what Higher wants to do here, but it can certainly like set up defensively with Stockpile, and we don't want to just sit there Sucker Punching in its face. And sure enough, it does in fact go for a Stockpile. So that swap was definitely the correct play. It is at +1 on both defenses, but we're just going to hit it with that Electro Ball. So yeah, we went 1-1 this week, guys, which is certainly better than nothing. We're not really gaining on Celeste, but we're not losing on Anna either, so we will definitely take that for now. I'm also really encouraged because that was, I think, far and away our best performance against Celeste this whole season. So you love to see that. We're going to keep working, of course, as we head into Chapter 4 and try to refine our strategies and get some new good boys try to pick up them W's. But yeah, that's going to be it for today, guys. As always, I have been Jolly by Nature. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Hey, what's up, everybody? You made it to the end of the video. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons so you stay up to date on what I and my co-hosts are doing right here on the Blastburn Radio YouTube page. Also, be sure to check out Blastburn Radio Podcast, which is available wherever fine pods are casted, as well as at our website down below at blastburnradio.com. But yeah, we'll be back next time, and I hope to see you there. Take care.